Good morning, students. So, welcome back to the class now. We will be starting with your next chapter, that is ideally your chapter number 3 as per your syllabus, okay? But as per your book, chapter number 4, that is alternative centers of power or new centers of power, okay? Fine. What is this and why are we studying this chapter? You have studied about the bipolar world, okay? That is a Cold War when the world was divided between two superpowers, right? Then you studied about the end of the bipolar world, that is how did the Soviet Union disintegrate, right? Number 3, rise of Russia as a power, and then finally US emerging as the hegemon power, right? The sole superpower. So after US, what are those powers, or who are those powers, rightly, who are those powers which can pose as a challenge, which can pose a threat to the US power, right? Now this we will be studying in this chapter, right? Now which are these power? Let's start with the introduction. So here you will be studying about European Union, which has been very much in the news from past few years, right? Due to the exit of very important country within it, that is Britain, right? That is Brexit. Okay, what is European Union, why it was formulated, and everything you will be studying here. ASEAN, right? Then you will be studying about BRICS, SAARC, okay, all these important unions that can pose a challenge to the power of US. That is the presence, that is the creation of a multipolar world. How has world transformed indirectly into a multipolar world, right? Now, both of these, in fact, you will be studying about BRICS also, so why not BRICS and SAARC as well. So all of these regional organizations, cooperative organizations, they have developed alternative institutions, conventions that build a more peaceful and a cooperative regional order, right? So EU is the short form for European Union. Since we will be studying right now only about EU, I will be focusing on that. About rest of the organizations, cooperations, we will be studying as we proceed further. Okay. Now, gradually the countries that were a part of EU, they have transformed the countries of the region into prosperous countries, right? Why and how, we will be studying that. Then you will be studying about the rise of China, which has made a good impact on the world politics. Again, there's this spelling mistake, students, so just pardon me here. Its impact on the world politics. Then the role of BRICS presently as a rising power in the world. Okay, fine. So what was EU and how was EU formulated? So Europe after Second World War, what was the condition of Europe after the Second World War that led to the establishment of European Union? Now, the Second World War, it shattered many hopes and assumptions on which the European states were built, such as, you have here, the question was about Europe. What will be the future of Europe? Should Europe be allowed to revert to its old rivalries, okay, or to its institutions that would contribute to a positive conception of international relations? So many hopes were shattered because the Second World War left all those hopes, assumptions. So in 1945, the European states confronted the ruin of the economies. Now, since the ruin of the economies were there were destruction of the structures as well. And here you see that the integration of Europe after 1945 was aided by the Cold War, because it was in the Cold War that the two superpowers, that is US and USSR, were looking for its allies. Now, US used this opportunity to create Europe and to bring Europe within its fold. So America extended massive financial help, okay, for reviving the economy of Europe under Marshall Plan. That was known as Marshall Plan. Now, what was this plan? US created that NATO also, right? So under this Marshall Plan, the organization, look here, the Organization for European Economic Cooperation was established in 1948. Okay, this was done to give aid, to provide aid to the West European states. It became a place, it became a platform where the Western European states began to cooperate on trade and economic issues. Okay, next, what were the steps that were taken? Next step was the formation of Council of Europe. The Council of Europe in 1949 was another step for political cooperation, right? And then you see the process of economic integration of European capitalist countries. This started step by step, which led to the formation of European Economic Community in 1957. Now, when European Economic Community was established, how will it get a political dimension? To give it a political outlook, there was a creation of European Parliament. Now, this was a political step. When you create a parliament, you create a voice for your nation. So, when European Parliament was created, you see that the collapse of the Soviet Union, it put Europe on a fast track. And that resulted in the establishment of European Union in 1992, because there was no other, say, attraction, there was no other loopholes, there were no other place, there were no other points where the world would focus on, right? So what happened at that time, that Europe started building itself very quickly. There was no issue, there was nothing to be discussed. So at that point of time, when Soviet bloc collapsed, that made Europe to get on fast track, and that resulted in the establishment of European Union in the year 1992. And the foundation for this was because of common foreign security policy, cooperation on justice, home affairs and currency. Okay, is this background clear to you? So you can go you can go here, you can make a flow chart also, and you can go like that. You have Marshall Plan, okay, Marshall Plan, then you have the coming of OEEC in 1948, then you have COE, that is Council of Europe, in 1949, then you have European Economic, I have missed it out here. That is, it's not missed out because it's the way I have made the flowchart to make you understand. For yourself, you can create a flowchart and understand it in a way that you put here in between, you may write EEC 1957, then you come to the Parliament, okay, and then you finally come to European Union in 1992. That's the order, right? Fine. Once you make the order, you understand why and how European Union had come into existence. Now you have understood by far that it was only for rebuilding of the economy, right? The economy of Europe. So from economic union, European Union transformed into a political union, right? From European Union, it transformed itself into a political one. It started to act more like a nation state. Okay. Now, how many states were a part of it? It was more than 27 states. Okay. Now, if you see here, then European Union, it did not had a constitution. but it has its own flag, it has its own national anthem, it has its own founding date, currency. Okay, it also has a common foreign and security policy. It has great economic influence with world's biggest GDP at that point of time, right? And if you see, then European Union has tried to expand its area of cooperation while acquiring new members, especially from the Soviet bloc. Why from the Soviet bloc, students? It is because at that point of time Soviet Union was weak, it was disintegrated, though Russia rose as a power. But we are talking here about the East European states, right? The ones from the Soviet bloc. So European Union wanted to expand its areas, but the process was not easy. It proved difficult for people because many were not enthusiastic in giving EU the powers that were exercised by the government of their own country. Because EU was in any form, it was a group, it was a union, right? So whatever power the government of the one particular country was exercising, probably the people were not ready to give the same power to a group, right? So that was the situation. Now here you see that there were reservations as well about including new countries within EU. So that means there were loopholes within European Union as well. It has just been formulated, it has just been transformed into a political union. So naturally there will be some ups and downs, there will be some changes. And then you see that European Union has economic, political, diplomatic and military influence as well. And therefore I present you that European Union had great economic influence with world's biggest economy with a GDP of more than $12 trillion in 2005. Okay, here it is world's biggest economy. Okay, economy will be here with a GDP of more than $12 trillion in 2005, which was larger than that of United States. So that is a direct challenge. Naturally, the topic is doing justice, calling itself as a new center of power. Okay, then you see the currency that is euro. It may pose a threat to US dollar. Why? Because the economy is rising, the economy, the GDP is larger than that of United States. So that is why it is trying to tell you that euro could have posed a threat to US dollar. In the world trade, the share of world trade is 3 times larger than that of United States, which allows it to be more assertive in trade disputes with the US and China. Then the economic power also gives its influence over the closest neighbors. That brings closest neighbors would be any time Asia and Africa. And finally it functions as important bloc in the international economic organizations such as World Trade Organization, that is WTO. Okay, next is the political and diplomatic influence. Now 2 members, Britain and France, they hold permanent seat in Security Council. Now as per the recent updates, UK has exit. Britain has exit itself from European Union, and that was your Brexit, which was very much in news, right? So the chapter holds in the backdrop of past years. Okay, that is why it tells you that Britain and France, which were a part of, France is still there. So Britain and France, Britain and France, which were a part of European Union, they hold permanent seat in Security Council, which proves very much profitable as an economic union as well as a political union in the world, because Security Council comes within United Nations, and 2 members holding permanent seat in Security Council gives EU a very strong influence. Okay, even the non-permanent members were also a part of, even the non-permanent members were also a part of European Union. Now this enabled European Union to influence some US policies as well, such as when US positions on Iran's nuclear program was seen, it could influence those policies. The use of diplomacy, the use of economic investments, negotiations rather than coercion, military force were effective in the case of dialogue with China on human rights and environmental degradation. So that is how European Union has been very effective, very influensive as far as influencing the policies, playing a role in discussing the policies are concerned. Then the military influence. What has been the military influence? EU's combined armed force are the second largest in the world. What it spent on defense, that is second after US. Again, two very important members, Britain and France, they have nuclear arsenals of approximately 550 nuclear warheads. I have explained you earlier what is warheads, what are arms, what is weapons, insurgency. All these technical terms when you study world politics must be clear to you. Okay. Now, it is also world's second most important source of space and communication technology. And then you understand the concept here as a supranational organization. What is a supranational organization? Anything that is supranational has power that transcends the national boundaries. Okay, it is beyond the national boundaries. So as that organization, EU is able to intervene in economic, political and social areas. There will be a space here, students. It's not the spelling. There will be just a space over here. So EU has been able to intervene in economic, political and the social areas. But in many areas, the member states, they have their own foreign relation, own defense. For example, you have here one example that is of Britain's Prime Minister Tony Blair. You must be aware of it. Tony Blair was America's partner in the Iraq's invasion. Now here, many of the EU's newer members made up the US-led coalition of the willing, where Germany and France opposed the policy. So there has been a doubt also. What has been the doubt about? Doubt has been about in many of the parts of Europe regarding European Union's integrationist agenda. What is this integrationist agenda? When any organization, or let's say when any of the union, okay, they think of aligning itself, integrating itself to other more nations, to bring in more nations, to expand its policies. Okay, it's both. Okay, to expand its policies, then that is the integrationist agenda. So many of the members within Europe, they have a doubt about it. Okay, next, what is this coalition of the willing? This term refers to US-led multinational force, Iraq, the military command during 2003 invasion of Iraq and much of the Iraq war. Okay, now this coalition, it was basically, this was led by United States of America. Okay, and United States of America at that time led this coalition of the willing. Why? This was regarding, if I go back into the history, then you see that US President George W. Bush, he visited Europe for a NATO summit and he declared that should Iraqi President Saddam Hussein choose not to disarm, the United States will lead a coalition of the willing to disarm him. Okay. Okay, so this basically refers also to the, this refers also to those countries who supported militarily or politically the 2003 invasion of Iraq, and they gave their military presence in post-invasion Iraq. Okay, so are you clear with the concept of coalition of the willing here, right? And also about the deep skepticism in Europe about EU's integrationist agenda. And that is why Britain's former Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, he kept UK out of the European market. Okay, and there has been other resistance also by different countries who were a part of European Union. Okay, now this was in brief, or whatever you have to study about European Union's formation, its powers, its agenda, its expansionist policy, how has it expanded itself and established itself as a supranational organization. Okay, students? All right, I'll stop here for the day. In the next class, we'll proceed with the other centers of powers. Okay, so till here, you all revise. If you have any problem, let me know. Okay, all right. Thank you, students.